The Bitcoin and crypto bull market is over as we know it, and I'm going to show you why right here. There's incredible signals that are suggesting an overwhelming bearish price action that could be playing out here. And on the other hand, there's some incredible data that's absolutely bolstering the idea that we have not yet seen the God candles that everybody's been waiting on. But what is the reasoning? What's going on a day in the feeling in the market where we're getting absolute peak fear? In fact, we're at the highest level of fear. Look at that score 16. That's the lowest it's been. That means the most fearful this market has been so far this entire bull cycle. Even on the collapse of FTX back here in November 2022, only got down to a 29. Up here, nobody knows what to make of what data they should be looking at. Should they be looking at the massive bearish divergences from March of last year all the way to now? Should we be looking at the 4-year cycle and the time frame that's suggesting that the bull market is already over? In fact, compound that with the fact that the US government was shut down, and when they opened, the market was going to boom. Well, what the hell is going on? Drop a comment down below if you really think that the bull market's over. Or do you think the market's just kind of got its feet stuck in the mud and it's going to shake this off sometime into next year? Well, let's look at the data, because don't forget, October 10th was a major shift and basically sentiment shakeout in the market. And some people contend that the US government just gave Wall Street the keys to Bitcoin and you slept right through it. We had that massive liquidation event that completely shook the market, and it was orders of magnitude larger than what we saw during the FTX collapse. In fact, Twitter has now declared that the bear market is here. But at the same time, institutions added $24 billion in Bitcoin exposure this year to the ETF holdings that they have. In addition to that, we see long-term Bitcoin holders also have sold these whales. We see the whales selling 62,000 coins since October, not to retail, but to BlackRock, to Fidelity, to these financial behemoths that now have got their claws into the Bitcoin ecosystem, and also to sovereign wealth funds buying in darkness while you're sitting here watching on the sidelines wondering when it's going to happen because you need it now. Well, the fact of the matter is there's a lot of things going on under the radar that people are not paying attention to. Silent over-the-counter OTC accumulation at that $95,000 mark where everybody thinks it's dead, and yet we're seeing this scaling in. And I'm going to show you the charts here to prove it to you here in just a moment, because when we're looking at this, currently I see the price pushing down into this gift from God buy zone, of which I have posted from 6 or 8 months ago. And here we are right into a zone that I had sort of forecasted was going to be a great buying opportunity if we dip back into it. So here we are dipping back into it. And furthermore, in a falling wedge, which tends to be a bullish price action pattern. So what do we make of this? Because on the one hand, we got all these institutions, sovereign wealth funds, major players out there stacking in, and especially at these levels at 95. But we see, oh, we're in the gift from God buy zone. But at the same time, we've got this massive higher high, higher high, higher high. And the same time, we have this massive bearish divergence. And it just somehow lines up like it's a simulation right when that 4-year cycle is predicted to, potentially we have ended. Well, what are we looking at? I don't look at that kind of stuff. I also want to look at the context. In this case, the government shutdown, I think, is having a major impact here, and the government open. So what's going on? It's only a short-term fix for right now. They've kicked the can down the road until the end of January. So simply extending the current funding levels right now just to kind of kickstart things into the holidays, in my opinion. But for investors, for these risk assets, for Bitcoin, for the tech market, the stock market, everything out there, what we're really seeing is lack of clarity about how people should position themselves. Because what happens if we go into January 30th, no continuing resolution for another year gets offered or signed into law, pushing things forward with some clarity. So I think people are a little bit hands off right now, and it is an investor's dream if you're paying attention. So many retail right now are looking at this and they see, but the price is down 25%. We've been here before, everybody. It dropped here, 109 down here to about 74, 75,000, 32% drop. We saw it back here, 74 all the way down to 48, another 32, 33%. Nothing is out of order here so far. And people think it's over because of some forecast that has happened to play out in some regard in the last 2 cycles, which is that halving cycle, the 4-year cycle. Yet we've got the business cycle contracting. We've been in quantitative tightening that's coming to an end. And yet again, coming back over to this data right here, we're seeing major players buying this, offloading from old school whales into these institutional long-term players that are just taking advantage because they have the patience. So the question I have for every one of you out there, do you have the patience? Do you deserve the wealth you desire? Because no wealth in anything, whether it's love, friendship, business, markets, investing, trading, nothing comes in greatness without a little bit of pain along the way and the patience of consistently and having a plan and sticking to it. Because again, while we do see massive technical bearish signals that may have some impact, in which we're seeing right now to downside price action, we cannot ignore the fact that we have the massive, overwhelming amount of stable coins just sitting on the sidelines. This is capital that has been put into the blockchain ecosystem in the form of stable coins, essentially dry powder that can get moved right back into the market in a moment's notice. And do not forget, we've seen this before. When the price came down right here, when this started breaking out, this went from 60,000. Let's see how many days that took. 60,000 to 109,000, 88% pump in 105 days. Well, let's go a little bit smaller. 60,000 right here. What's that first pump right there? About 70 days, 85% pump. These things, when they happen beyond quicker than you can jump into after they're in order. The problem is most people buy a top and they're sad that it's not going up, so they sell a bottom only to buy in again higher. So you got to ask yourself what you're doing about the price action right now with all this capital that's ready to get deployed into the market when the confidence comes back in. Beyond that, we also see these massive accumulation addresses. These are wallets that are stacking, and in those wallets, basically when Bitcoin goes in those wallets, they don't move. It's basically labeled as an accumulator address. And look, what do we see? Price action pulling back and this going parabolic of stacking, of the stackingness for people that are looking long-term. So my question is, do you want to be one with wealth on the other side, or do you want to be one that had the dreams of wealth but gave up because you got a little bit emotional in the chop here that is specifically designed to make you emotional and get out of these markets? And then again, these institutions, companies bought 441,000 Bitcoin between Q1 and Q3. We can just get stronger and stronger. We're getting stronger indications about what's going on the regulatory framework in crypto that's also strengthening this institutional case for stacking more Bitcoin and opening up those capital channels and appetite from these major players. So the SEC Chair Paul Atkins said the SEC will ease crypto and Bitcoin regulations. Insane. Wonderful. This is amazing. And then you see Harvard, who at one point was against adding Bitcoin to their endowment. They've increased their position by 237%, while many retail is running scared or deciding if they need to exit right now. You're doing it wrong if that's what's on your mind. I'm not saying that we may not have some lower price action. Hell, I kind of hope we dip down into 80, 88, maybe 85, because that's going to be generational opportunity for those that are on the sidelines. And don't forget, there are plenty of people that are waiting to deploy when that happens. The question is, will you be one of them? Because we see public companies and out here just absolutely stacking into Bitcoin. We see the regulations changing. We see massive increase in appetite for positions that are already there. We see, this is it. The OGs, the old school whales transferring where you see the data. Oh my God, whales are selling, but we're also seeing an absolutely insane appetite from institutions that's scooping all that up. This is the maturity, the evolution of the crypto ecosystem, and retail is getting emotional and reading the wrong signals, especially when we have quantitative tightening coming to an end. We have this liquidity flood that's likely going to be coming in at some point in 2026. So you have to ask yourself a question. Are you going to be jumping in and out emotionally because you need the market to do something? You are setting yourself up for failure. So while the price is falling a bit right now, we're in a zone that I've had outlined. If we drop lower, 88, 86, hell, even back to 74, I think what's coming with the setup, the landscape surrounding this asset class is still going to be bringing us up into these upper targets at some point, whether it's next year or the year after. But what's happening right now with the changing framework and the capital that's coming in, the fact that we have this government shutdown that is potentially looming again in 2 months, there's a little bit of risk-off behavior in the market right now for retail, but institutions are essentially stacking into their future. So my question for you is, are you stacking into your future, or are you stacking into your pain. That's what we got to look out for right now. Make sure you do not over leverage yourself. Don't over allocate. Be patient here into the holidays. Maybe we get a pump. Maybe we go sideways, but I think there's going to be some magic coming in 2026. So if you're worried right now, remember the worst time to sell is during peak fear. Wait for a bit of a bounce here, get a little bit more clarity, look for a little bit of time to elapse into January so that you can be there with the same size or larger portfolio when Bitcoin hits $200,000 and beyond. I want to make sure you don't step in the wrong potholes here and trade out of your future emotionally when the best opportunity of our lifetimes is right here when the world just opened its doors to Bitcoin. I'll see you all in the next video.